But let's start with the developing story of Ukraine. Gunmen have seized the international airport in Simferopol in Crimea. That's the only Ukrainian region with an ethnic Russian majority. And this comes just a day after unidentified armed men stormed Crimea's parliament building. First of all, let's talk to our correspondent who's at the airport in Simferopol, Laurence Lee. Laurence, bring us right up to date with what is in front of you there.
What's in front of me are four, frankly, they look like army trucks, except they haven't got any markings on them. As I've been watching in the last minute or two, a very large group of about perhaps 40 men, all wearing fatigues. They're carrying what our security advisor says are AK-103, Russian issue, though it doesn't mean they're Russian. But they're all wearing combat fatigues, and none of them have any insignia on them. So these four trucks now, which I assume all of them have got men in them, are all leaving the airport. But that doesn't mean they're all leaving, because there are still about 9 or 10 men hanging around outside the VIP area, outside the international arrivals bit in the car park as well. Airport. And there was a sort of an unofficial spokesman who gave us an interview, and we said, well, who are they? And he said, I don't know. And I can't tell you who they are either. They're either Russian or they're...
Sorry, the line is dropping in and out, but let's persist, shall we, for a little bit. Laurence, can you tell us about the traffic? Is traffic, air traffic, coming and going as it would normally?
Yes, it is. And I've been inside the airport to have a look on time and on schedule, one way or the other. And there are passengers and people. It's very early in the morning here. It's 7 o'clock. But there are people going into the airport, arrivals and departures area as normal. But as I say, the perimeter and the car park and the drop-off bit are all being controlled now by these armed men. And as I say, you have to work on the assumption that these are not Ukrainian forces, but there are in Ukraine or pro-Russian anti-Kiev forces. Okay. And it is the best illustration you could offer that Kiev has no control now over Crimea.
All right, Laurence, thank you. Thank you for that. And apologies for the quality of the line there. It was dropping in and out. Anyway, let's continue now by going to another of our correspondents who's in the Crimea. We can talk to Robin Forestier-Walker, who is outside the Parliament building there. And Robin, what's the situation there now, today? Because, of course, yesterday we saw armed men storm and take control of that building.
Sure, Martin. Well, as you can see, dawn has broken over Simferopol, and I just walked past the Parliament building a minute ago, and there are groups of local police standing around outside. They've been guarding the building. Inside, we understand that those armed men who took over the Parliament building and the regional government building are still there. Now, it's not clear who the police answer to outside, but we do know that yesterday pro-Russian supporters came in large numbers to show their support for the guys inside the building who'd raised the Russian flag. And then, of course, we had this important vote yesterday in this regional parliament for a referendum on a more autonomous Crimea. At the same time, there were Russian military armoured personnel carriers sighted on the roads outside of the city. And it's all adding to the tension, as we know the US wanting Russia to show sincerity over its pledge to respect Ukrainian sovereignty. But at the same time, again, all of this adds to more concerns about just who is in charge here and who is organising these men and giving them orders to turn up at these important locations, the airport in the south, and what their next steps will be.
Now, we're talking about an area, aren't we, with a Russian majority, and the referendum, as far as I understand it, is for more autonomy for the region, not for complete independence, to break away from Ukraine.
That's right, and the new government that is forming in Kiev has stated that it doesn't recognise this vote, that it's not a legally binding or legal. They're not satisfied that it fits the legal parameters whether this referendum could even go ahead. But if they're not able to control Crimea, it's difficult to see how they could stop this from going ahead at this stage. Of course, that's a long way off from now. That date has been set for May the 25th. A coincidence maybe, or deliberate, because that's the day that presidential elections are due to be held in Ukraine. Certainly there are political forces here, political factions, pro-Russian groups who want Crimea to break away or to have far less to do with Ukraine. And a lot of people here, Russian speakers, ethnic Russians who feel a little isolated, would like to be part of Russia again. But there are also others who would like to stay firmly part of Ukraine, in particular the ethnic Tatar community here, who very much see themselves wanting to align with Europe. And the danger, of course, is always that those differences in opinion could potentially spill over into some form of conflict in the coming days.
All right, Robin, thank you. So Robin Forestier-Walker there outside the Parliament building in